Today on the podcast, we're talking to Alain and Jess. I've known Alain and Jess for about 10 years now, from ProMotion Hire to Shift 4 to their new venture, Triangle Facilities Hub. On today's episode, we talk about sustainability in filmmaking, kit hire in a post-COVID world, and inflatable lighting, whatever the hell that is. Thanks for coming in, guys.
Thanks for having us.
I keep thinking that is a dog.
That's my knee. That's my knee.
I keep thinking it's Luna.
What are you trying to say about my knee?
Yeah, so thanks for coming in. You're our fourth guests. We're excited to chat to you about, well, I guess broadly speaking, filmmaking, the landscape at the moment. But I mean, you can tell us, but your background is kit, right?
Yeah.
So should we talk about a little bit about like kind of how we met? I met you guys 10 years ago now.
I think when you moved into the Shah project.
Yes, and you guys were at
ProMotion.
Yeah. So should we have a little? Well, let's have a chat about what's your guys' background. So, Alain, you're not quite a soundy, but sound is your background, right?
Yeah. So I trained in sound engineering at college and moved over to the UK to work at Abbey Road Studios, which never happened.
Oh, really? Oh, I didn't know that. Right.
Oh, you should ask him his story about Abbey Road.
Oh, yeah. I went to go drop off my CV, but they wouldn't let me pass the front door, obviously.
Okay.
So I thought to get their attention, I would make a CV, and I got an old shoebox, and I made like a cardboard mixer. And the fader went up and it was my name, the other fader went up and it was my phone number, etc. But
Lord.
The background is I'm the least crafty person. Anyway, so that was the whole thing. I went and delivered it. There was probably a bomb scare or something. Still didn't get the job. So
But you managed to hand it to somebody.
I managed to hand it. I got it through the front door.
And they were like,
yeah, they were
thanks.
backing away slowly. So yeah, then I kind of fell into kit rental. I didn't even know that it existed.
Okay.
But a friend of mine was leaving ProMotion, and he got me the job.
Oh, okay,
there.
right.
And kind of just, I've always been a bit of a geek, and I like maths and physics and that kind of thing. So even though it wasn't music related, I was dealing with cool kit every day and learning about.
Nice. What about you, Jess?
I
don't think I know. I've known you for years. I don't think I know what your background is.
Well, I was an international fencer. No, it's not true.
That was a genuine look of awe.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
I was going to say, do you mean like fencer? Like putting up fences or like...
No, I started in music TV. So I worked in London at a company called Attic Productions that made Pop World and T4.
No way.
And I worked kind of as production kind of runner initially, and then they needed someone to look after their kit in-house. And I was like, I love cameras.
Okay.
So I took that on and I worked on kind of looking after all the kit. Shooting, camera assisting.
Got you.
All of that. And we were in a building called Westbourne Studios, which is a bit like the Sharp Project. It's like lots of businesses in there. And there was a hire company in there called S&O Media.
Right.
And so when I left at it, I went to S&O and I kind of stayed there for about 4 years until I met that guy.
This guy? And you were at ProMotion by then?
I was at ProMotion,
he was at ProMotion.
Yeah. Okay.
So we met, actually, the first time we met was in Vegas at a trade show.
Oh, how romantic.
She was very hungover with a bottle of Mountain Dew.
Yeah. Well, let's not go into that. But yeah, so yeah, I loved working at it. It was amazing. Like so varied shoots and people were so creative.
Right.
And Pop World especially was just bonkers.
Yeah, I bet.
But yeah, kit was always kind of my passion. So
right.
Then,
okay.
Yeah,
Nice.
And then eventually we decided we wanted to move up north, and ProMotion were interested in kind of doing that with us. So
nice. So how long ago was that then? So you'd only just been in Manchester when I met you?
Yeah.
1st of February.
Yeah. 1st of Feb, 10 years ago.
No way.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I literally maybe that year, possibly.
I think we opened
So we
on
were
the
probably
2nd of
so
March.
excited to see you.
No, you were
We
so
were like
enthusiastic.
so excited. Our first hire in Manchester was a monopod.
Was it?
And Alan answered the phone and was chatting away to someone, and then he hung up and he was like, yes! And I was like, what? And he was like, I've hired a monopod! And I was like, Yay!
Do you remember
I
who
was,
too?
yeah,
Yeah.
Dave Williamson. I'm still friends with him.
Yeah.
Nice.
He became their like mentor for like kit mentor and talked about kit
really?
with them, and they're lovely guys.
Oh, nice.
And I
but
was
yeah.
so flustered with the phone call, even though I'd been in hire for like, I don't know, 7 years at this point, that I gave him a 33% discount and only charged him 1 day, even though he asked for it for 3 days.
It was a monopod, so it's only like
£10
it was starting out at like
It's probably the
£15
cheapest
a day.
£15, and then it's like
It was our first hire.
yeah.
Amazing. Nice.
exciting
So then
times.
what happened after that then? So how long were you guys at Promotion then?
Was it?
I was 17 years.
Yeah.
17 years.
I was probably
16 years actually. 16 years of promotion. You were there since 2014.
Well, yeah, 2015 really.
Yeah, you were yeah.
Yeah, I helped out on the
2015
website.
really.
Yeah.
And then
She really only
2014
joined when we
kind
moved
of.
to Manchester, so it was 10
Pretty
years.
much to the bitter end.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Yeah.
So should we talk about that? That's probably, I mean, since meeting you guys, obviously there's been, say, quite a lot of casualties in that. I mean, I guess for multiple reasons, but I guess COVID was a big part of it, but also just the changing landscape of like filmmaking and kit hire in general. So, I mean, should we pick up about what we were talking about before? Like what happened?
We had built what we consider a highly successful specialized hire company pre-COVID. 2019 happened to be our best year on record. Biggest turnover, biggest profit margin.
Yeah.
Big shows doing. But what I think we'd done is
A lot of hard work.
a lot of hard work.
Yeah. It looked like a lot of graft
we
from the
were
outside.
pretty stressed at that point, but we'd kind of naturally, through gaining a few shows, we had specialized into natural history kind of shows, expedition shows, etc. We just did One Strange Rock with Will Smith, and it went into Welcome to Earth was the second series, etc. Which were amazing shoots in terms of like, does a Ronin gimbal work in zero gravity?
Right. Okay. Cool.
Do you have sulfuric acid covers for your cameras? And those kind of questions, that were
standard
answered.
questions.
Yeah,
I
must have been on so many lists.
Super interesting.
Super interesting stuff. But got very high end and very specialized. So a lot of kit, a lot of resources, etc. And then when the world shut down in 2020, we literally lost £1 million worth of work overnight when people couldn't travel anywhere.
Yeah, of course.
And we'd never were interested in doing drama or that kind of thing.
Okay.
Which also meant we kind of missed the
boom.
streamers.
Right. Okay.
Because that started in drama with Netflix and Apple TV and all the rest of it. And so by the time the world had opened up again to being able to travel and do shoots abroad and stuff, which remember the UK opened up, but a lot of the countries that we were traveling to had limitations much longer than we did.
Yep.
So while everyone was booming in drama in the industry, we were still essentially twiddling our thumbs until we just couldn't twiddle our thumbs any longer. And, so it just became a casualty of COVID. And I mean, I'm just trying to think, this was before the actors' strikes even.
I think it was. And as well, it's really easy to kind of narrow down on the last 10 years.
Yes.
But equipment has been changing at such a high rate for the last kind of 15 years. You know, when I started, it was just digibeaters.
Yeah, sure.
Like, we just had one camera.
Yeah, right.
And now, there's 20 different main cameras that people can shoot on. So the variety in equipment has changed massively.
Yes.
And that puts a lot of pressure on hire companies.
Okay.
We used to have to invest.
To stock all that stuff. Yeah,
invest in a much wider range.
Okay.
The cameras are changing over much quicker. And it's not just the cameras, it's lenses, it's lighting. Everything's evolving at a really fast rate.
And you were saying before that more video production companies like ourselves have got kit in-house, right?
Yeah,
the
it's much more
affordability.
affordable. Yeah. So I think there's a lot of different factors to why hire has changed over the last kind of 15 years.
Yes.
And there's a lot of investment had to happen.
Yes.
For hire companies to be able to keep up with clients' demands and clients' needs.
Got you. So what about now? What's been the next phase in your guys?
So we started a company called Triangle.
Yes.
Triangle Facilities Hub, to give it its full name.
Nice.
So after Shift 4 went into administration, we kind of took a little bit of time to try and work out what we wanted to do next,
Yep.
whether we wanted to start our own hire company
Yes.
or what we wanted to do. And then part of this was born of a lot of the issues that we had as a hire company. There was
Yes.
never really any kind of support. So,
Okay.
you go through periods when it's quiet and periods when it's crazy busy.
Yep.
And when it's crazy busy, there's no one to call and say, oh, could you come in for a few days to help us out? Or
Yes.
can you help with this? Or we've
Okay.
got to do this tender and we don't have time. We're
Yeah.
working till midnight now trying to get things done. And so we thought maybe there's a place there where we can kind of be
Fill in that gap.
independent
Yeah, right. Okay.
and be kind of like contractors or freelancers.
Yep.
And then we kind of widen that scope to look at production companies that
Mm-hmm.
have kit, and that has grown as a market massively because the kit is so much more affordable.
Yeah, sure. like we said before.
And if you're doing a big production, you're going to be shooting for like 3 to 6 months. You're going to buy the kit,
yeah, sure.
and it's about keeping it up to date, keeping it refreshed, also getting rid of dead stock.
Yes,
and
sure.
and making it a viable investment. So going in and supporting production companies to do that, and working with manufacturers. So kind of if they don't have a base in the UK and we like their product, can we
nice.
do more
Cool.
work with them to introduce them to
sure.
people? So it became a whole wide thing where we felt like we've spent 20 years developing our kind of knowledge and skill set around equipment, and
Yeah.
we don't want to lose that. We want
Yeah,
to keep
sure.
working it. We've got a lot of contacts. We've worked with a lot of lovely
Huge
people.
amounts of expertise between the two of you. right?
Yeah, so it was just to kind of like, how can we use this
Yep.
rather than kind of lose it? And we felt like really the world didn't need another hire company right now.
Yeah, sure.
It just kind of felt like it was giving us that vibe.
yeah.
So I don't know.
What was the last bit of kit that you got really excited about like that? You can say you're Ronin 4D.
Well, the
if you like.
4D, once you can see what the 4D does, it's
Yeah.
amazing.
Yes.
Even just the handheld gimbals like an RS4, being able to,
because it was only a few years ago that I remember having like an early Ronin that you couldn't put down.
exactly.
It didn't
Yeah.
have feet.
Had
yeah.
to desperately looking for someone to hand it off to at the end of a
Yeah.
2-minute
That
shot.
wasn't even that long ago.
No,
was
it
like 10 years
wasn't.
ago.
No, well, yeah, exactly.
Or like when the Mobi first came out, it was
And they were
so expensive.
so difficult to use and
Yeah,
to balance and, to
heavy
use,
and-
and they go wrong. And
yeah.
I mean, it's an RS4 now. Not that I've got anything to do with DJI. I wish I
Yeah.
did. But we used one on a shoot the other week, and it's just
It's outrageous.
yeah,
But-
it's outrageous what it can do.
Even the
You still
difference
need
between
to
like an
know-
RS, we've got an RS2. And the difference between the RS2 and the RS3, just little things like having one button to lock all the axes. Like
exactly.
it is a game. I guess it's not a game changer, but it just makes the operator's life so much easier.
But you say that as well, but there's definitely still a skill required to operate it.
Sure.
Like I said, I'm not a camera operator. I was on a shoot the other week, and one got thrust into my hand and said, "Go do some B-roll."
Yeah, sure.
And it was,
It
you
takes
still
a bit
gotta-
of getting used
you're
to.
used to, and you know what you're doing. And going back to the basics of filmmaking,
Yes.
expose it correctly, frame it correctly, get it in focus where it needs to
Yeah.
be in focus. Those are the
Yeah,
not to
sure.
dumb it down, but
Well,
that's
what
what we're
I
all
mean.
trying to do.
Yeah. And that's the same 50 years ago as it
exactly.
is now. So.
Yeah.
I think lighting as well
Lighting
has come
has
on
changed.
such a like at BSC we saw Godox had like a trace frame, but it was an
Okay.
electronic trace frame.
Oh, cool.
So you could just press the button and it would change the diff level.
Oh, wow.
So the real like
Okay.
and as well like I don't.
So what was behind that? You could put any light behind
Yeah,
that.
just like
yeah,
it was
it was just a
it's
trace
just the trace
frame.
frame was the
it's just
electronic.
that you don't have to change it. You don't have to be
Oh,
like,
that's
actually,
cool.
I need F2 on that rather
Yeah,
than F1,
yeah,
or I
that's
would just want a
cool.
quarter.
Yeah.
But
or-
also, it's sorry to interrupt. It's DMX controllable.
I was just going to say, yeah.
so you can control it live in shot. So you can change the diffusion on a scene.
Okay.
Or between takes, if you're in the studio and you're
Okay.
doing like a repo or whatever, and you want more like
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, so it is more expensive than using a metal 4x4 trace frame
Yeah.
with some gel in it. But it's more sustainable, obviously.
Well,
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
interesting, isn't it? Because it's one of those sustainability is something that's important to everyone.
Yeah, sure.
Unless you hate the planet. you know.
Which, if you listen to this, you can
Yeah.
fuck off.
Yeah. Down with planet haters. And it is something we're seeing, like being really driven in the
Yes.
industry, which is great.
Yeah,
And
definitely.
from hire companies' point of view, we've been asked a lot to, what's sustainable that
Yeah,
you can offer
sure.
us. So moving to LED lighting is a
Yes.
good thing. Looking at battery options, how
Yeah,
that works, all of that kind of stuff. Getting rid of polyboards and using
Oh, really?
Reusable.
reusable polyboards rather,
Okay.
because it's just more waste that you're
yeah,
creating.
sure.
But I think there's a lot, there is a certain amount of people are just saying they want to be sustainable
And greenwashing the whole thing.
and greenwashing it.
Yeah, right,
It is like, if you're going to say it, believe it
Yeah.
and follow through with it, even
Yeah.
when it's difficult.
Yeah, because to be fair, we get a lot of tenders that we need to
Yeah.
write that, like, that's you get huge, like, proportion of your points that you're awarded is based on your sustainability.
Yeah.
So
And that's good. That's how it should be. But people
it can't just be lip service. It's like you've actually got
and
to
there's
do
a
it.
lot of that, and I think
From manufacturers.
from manufacturers to all sorts. But I think part of my issue with it is that production companies will want you to be green because
sure.
they want that for their mandate.
Yeah,
so they'll
sure,
have to go
sure.
to the channel and say, we use this equipment hire company,
Yes.
and this is the steps they took to
Yeah,
be sustainable.
sure. Got you. Okay.
And that's great,
Yep.
but production companies need to be checking that isn't greenwashing and isn't lip service.
Sure,
Because I know that there are some car companies that are very passionate about it.
Yes,
They're doing a
sure.
lot of work
Uh-huh.
to really follow through with that.
Yeah.
And I know there's some that maybe throw money at it rather.
Yeah, sure. Okay, got you.
And it's
But it doesn't work unless it's everyone. Net zero is net zero.
It doesn't
Yeah,
work
sure.
if you're just
Well, if one step
Yeah.
in that chain is
it's like, we'll follow through and really
Yeah, sure.
know who you're dealing with.
So I
and
guess the
know-
move, like you were saying before, the move to all LED lighting must be a
Yeah.
huge contributor to that.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's asking, I think some of it is asking bigger questions, like the Godox diff frame. That sounds like an amazing, and it's exciting from a creative point of view.
Yeah, sure.
But then from a sustainability point of view, I'm like, okay, well, how much does it take to make that? And
Okay.
is that better than the amount of diff you'd use
Yeah, sure. Okay.
naturally for that shoot? And it might be, or it might not be. I don't know. But it's not just
But how do you
thinking.
find out? How, as a
Yeah.
like a
Oh, I have no
end
idea.
user,
Yeah.
how do
Well,
you
I
even
think-
begin to?
Yeah, that's part of the issue, isn't it? Because people will jump on that and be like, oh, it's sustainable.
Yes.
And it's like, it might very well be,
Yeah.
but find out first.
Yeah, sure,
But it
sure.
is difficult.
In terms of Triangle, we've actually built a sustainability clause into our contract
Oh, okay, right.
that we will only work with people who are serious about.
Got you.
You don't have to be there. We're not, when no one's there.
yeah,
Yeah.
sure.
Everyone's
sure.
just trying.
Everyone's
Yeah,
trying,
yeah,
but
yeah,
if
sure.
we,
That's the first step,
Yeah,
though, right?
exactly.
Yeah, yeah.
And I think more companies need to do that, but it's difficult in this landscape where everyone
Yeah.
needs every single job that they
Yeah,
can
yeah, sure.
get in every client, every customer.
And I guess it's not always people's priority the last few years when
Yeah.
it has been
Yeah,
tough
it's
for
difficult,
most
yeah.
people. I don't mean to be mega negative
No,
about it, but
no.
it has been
Yeah.
like pretty tough. I speak to
Yeah,
a lot
yeah.
of freelancers, a lot of production
Absolutely.
companies, and it's been pretty rough out there. And
Yeah.
it's like, it's hard to prioritize that when you're in survival mode, I
Yeah,
guess.
Yeah,
But,
100%.
but
Yeah.
it doesn't mean it doesn't matter, obviously.
Yeah.
No.
But okay,
Yeah.
going back to kit. What?
Okay. But yeah, that was exciting
Yeah,
at the
yeah,
BSC
cool.
because it's really interesting.
Oh
From
yeah,
a
tell me
creative
about
point of
BSC.
view.
What was good at BSC?
So,
Some inflatable lighting.
Oh
as
yeah, I've
well.
seen some of these inflatable. I think
Yeah.
Jess sent me a link to
so
some of it.
the inflatable stuff, you get inflatable soft boxes for Godox. There was a photo. I can't remember what their name was. We have to edit that in later.
Oh right.
But they had a really cool lighting tube and lights with inflatable soft boxes. But like an airbed mattress, they had the pump attached to the soft box.
So you weren't.
So you just press a button and
and it
just
inflates. So it's great for like when it collapses down
Yeah.
if you're
So
traveling.
what
and
would you like?
stores.
What? Because when Jess sent it to me, I did think, oh, that's novel. But what's an instance that you would use?
Well, the
that?
difference is the lights that you've got up here, which are great. Anyway, like
Yeah.
Godox, that's great. We like Godox.
I don't know what that is.
But the traditional sort of frame and diffusion
Yes.
will never provide an absolutely purely even light because
Okay.
it's creased, and whereas the inflatable stuff
Has no crease.
stretches it
okay,
because of the
stretches
air,
it. Yeah,
so
okay.
you get a much smoother and creamier kind of light
Oh, right,
from it.
okay.
So I think that is the way it's going. Not
Okay.
to make a Bill Gates prediction of something like
Oh, you
diffusion,
reckon?
but I think it's all going to go that way.
Okay, so what's the light in the back?
Or
it's
just whatever
always
the
just- yeah.
manufacturer's
Oh, I see.
light
Right, so it doesn't
is.
have a light within it. Like there's
You can-
Some of them do.
Some of them are built
Some of
in.
them
I've
you can
seen,
wrap
I think.
round.
Yes, that's the one.
But
that
like,
I've
for
seen.
instance, the Godox ones have sort of those tube lights that they
Yes.
produce anyway,
Okay,
and then they
like
produce
something
and
like
if-
that you
Yeah,
would just,
exactly.
and then you would just put an
Inflatable softbox on there. They do square ones as well that
Okay.
kind of look like lilos.
Yes.
So if
right,
you've got
okay.
a square source or a rectangular,
Okay, got you.
rectangular source, so that's kind of cool and
Yeah,
lighting.
yeah, okay.
Back in the day, Sony released the F65.
Oh god.
Don't know if you remember that.
Oh yeah,
It was
yeah.
before the 55.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah.
It was huge.
It was massive.
Yeah.
It was
sure.
so big that
Yeah.
when we first saw it, I was like, "Oh, can I pick it up to see the weight?"
And they were like,
they
"Ha."
were like, "No, no, you can't actually." It's like, okay, that's unusual.
Yeah, right.
So
okay.
yeah,
I think I get more excited about like the peripheral stuff, like
Yeah.
Yeah.
the modifiers and the things that make my life slightly better,
Was it-
slightly
was it-
easier to operate.
Was it BSC last year? We saw the smoke genie. Have you got a smoke
Yeah,
genie?
yeah.
I mean, that's amazing.
Yeah.
Sort of-
It's
that was
great.
so cool.
Yeah.
It's good, isn't it?
and so those little bits that we like to discover.
We the week that we moved, no, maybe it wasn't the week, the month that we moved into this new office, we tried filming something down here, and I just put the smoke genie on. It was
nice.
literally below this.
Yeah.
I'm just
Pew,
pointing
pew,
to
pew.
yeah. Everybody got evacuated out of the building, so we were
Amazing.
using it just last week. Actually, I realised that if we put a latex glove over
nice.
over it, then
Nice.
hopefully my landlord's not watching.
Everything's fine.
Everything's fine. I didn't do that at all. So what's next for Triangle?
What's next for Triangle?
What's Triangle going to look like in 5 years?
On a beach in Fiji, obviously.
That sounds good. Can I come as well?
No, we just want to
Do
continue
you want
to.
to keep it small, just you
Yes.
guys?
Yeah. I
You've
don't
got
think
no
we'd-
interest in employing hundreds of people.
No, and I think if we needed more staff, we'd probably lean on freelancers.
Yeah, sure.
Outside of that, if we needed to get bigger, we'd probably look to just get someone in as a partner.
Okay, yeah,
rather
sure.
than kind of be employers.
Yes,
again.
sure. Yeah, no, I get it. Yeah.
But also, it's our view. Obviously, we've had a bit of a rocky ride the last few years, but a lot of it is people trying to get too big too quickly.
Yeah, sure.
So a lot of our advice to people is to stay.
It's like slow down.
Yeah,
It's-
exactly.
Yeah.
And obviously there
Enjoy
are
the
always
good times.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
but there's definitely like a bell curve of profitability in
Yes.
terms of it is all born from not being able to say no to work because no one wants to say
Oh,
you
totally.
just keep
And
taking
everybody
on
in
the
this
work
industry is
and
in
you
the
need
same
more
position.
people,
Yeah.
you need a bigger premises, you need more kit, you
100%.
need anything, no matter what sector you're in.
And I think sometimes there's a bit of an ego
Yeah.
thing with it as well, of like, it's nice to look like you're busy and you're employing loads of people.
Yeah.
And I guess that is good that you're sort of contributing to that economy, that like you're employing people.
Yeah.
But then
Absolutely.
you're right with the bell curve, definitely.
Yeah.
It just gets to a point where you're like, well, this is just diminishing returns.
Yeah,
Like, This is
exactly.
ridiculous.
Yeah.
I'm exponentially more stressed.
Yeah.
And my outgoings are X, Y, and Z, but like, are we really achieving more?
Yeah.
Like, are we really doing so?
Yeah.
It's hard to know when you're at it.
Oh, it's
right?
so difficult.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's
I
easy with
think
hindsight.
You need,
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
You need to like talk to people on the outside and keep,
100%.
don't become insular. That's, a
Yes.
big thing as well. Having
Yeah,
communication and dialogue with people that are outside of your business.
Yeah,
is
I guess
really
it's
important.
tricky for you guys to do that because there's nobody else. Correct me if I'm wrong, but there's nobody else doing what you're
No,
doing.
No.
not that.
Not in this industry.
Yeah.
Yeah,
the
yeah,
specialist
yeah.
support, that exists for other industries. If you need
Yeah.
Yeah.
in the financial sector and in
there's
hospitality,
consultants left, right, and centre.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
totally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think
which
we just personally, I love solving problems.
Yeah.
Yes,
So
it sounds like
that's-
it. Yeah.
So that's really, I think, where we want to
Well,
go.
that's
We just
basically
wanna-
where Triangle came
Yeah.
from, right?
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
guys identified that problem.
Yeah, and that's what
you
we
are
want
the
to do.
solution.
We just want to support people in the industry
Nice.
and make sure that they're getting the most out of their kit and getting the most out of
even
their training.
part of our DNA as Triangle is that people who use us, let's say, we only expect them to use us in a temporary capacity. That's what we're there for.
Yeah, sure.
the hope is that people do use us while they need to grow and expand in a different
And then
way.
become self-sufficient.
Exactly,
and-
not to go on to become megacorps or whatever.
Yeah, sure.
But that all is helpful, like you said earlier, to the economy of the industry.
Yeah.
But then make space for new people, and like we said, we are trying to be picky about who we're working with, because of sustainability, not only environmental sustainability but business sustainability.
Yes,
It's no use you working with a partner that then disappears.
Sure.
So I think just doing more of that.
Yeah. And we work with people in Scotland and London as well as Manchester, all over the place. But, we're pretty passionate about the Manchester industry.
Yeah.
And I think that's, we'd just love to...
Well, that's something we haven't really talked about.
Stay and help it grow and
I think there is... Oh, well, I don't know. I've worked in a few cities outside Manchester, but it does feel like Manchester is it feels quite unique as a filmmaking community. Like, I mean, you guys have worked... So you met in London, didn't you?
Yeah.
How does it feel different? I mean, it's been a while since you've lived there, but like...
It's vibrant and it's creative and people are really passionate, and I think
feel
there
like
is
people
a
collaborate.
community.
Yeah, that's it. I feel
Yeah.
like I mean, we work in London. I've never lived in London, but like it feels very... When I work with people who
it's such a massive place, though.
Yeah. I'm really trying not to be mega negative about it. I fucking hate London. but just purely from a like filmmaking community, it feels like there is a community here.
It feels more, sometimes it feels more independent.
Yeah, sure.
And that there's just more collaboration with that because there's more individuals working
sure.
together and there is kind of a passion and creativity. And because costs are lower, it's people are more able to be passionate and creative.
Yeah,
and,
sure.
Rent in London is
like
just
it's less dog eat dog.
extortionate.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I even noticed the difference between... So I used to live in Edinburgh, obviously, and when I was working there, I think that's obviously a much smaller city than Manchester. And I would say it's even more so a collaborative kind of community there, because it is just so small. It just feels like everybody knows each other in Edinburgh to the point that we not quite like sharing clients, but like if I couldn't do a job, I'd like happily pass it on to another production company and know that they're not going to shaft me. Whereas I think maybe I wouldn't be that open now.
But do you think
in terms
part
of
of
collaboration.
that is because the industry has changed, not necessarily the city?
Exactly. Yeah. I mean,
because I feel like it's way more aggressive as an industry.
I feel we were quite open with that. Maybe a few years ago in hire, we would share jobs with another hire company. If we had to cross hire such a substantial portion, it's easier and better and more collaborative to go in halves, or
you just think it's good karma, something like that. But that's based
There's a lot
on
of trust.
Yeah, exactly. That it's mutual trust, and like I kind of get the sense that, again, not meaning to be negative about it, but I think it has been a tough few years for everybody, and everybody's a little bit more...
Everyone's tense.
Everybody's tense and keeps their cards close to their chest a little bit more, whereas I think 10 years ago, maybe, you say, maybe it's not a location thing, maybe it's just a circumstances thing.
Yeah.
I think back then everybody just...
And the industry was going through such a boom and growth and everything, and everyone was way more relaxed because everyone was in demand, so...
Yeah, possibly. I think it's heading back in a good place, into a good place.